Hello?
Hello, welcome to Teaching in the First Century, the podcast. I'm your host, Eric. Just a reminder that this podcast is mainly just to vent about the classroom setting, classroom politics, whatever is happening in the world. And I thought today would be a good idea to focus on differentiated instruction when it comes to gifted, multilingual, and high ability learners. Give it a little something different, maybe something informational, because I know some listeners like to obviously be educated and not just listen to other people's problems. Okay, so you guys don't know, obviously, I'm a teacher, and I have a classroom full of diverse learners. Most of my students are multilingual learners, but they're all diverse, and although they're not labeled as gifted, they're obviously incredibly bright and just bring a lot to the classroom. So I did do some readings, and the 4 articles that I'm about to share with you just brought some insightful information to me. And I just thought, let me share it. So the first article that I want to share is titled Strength Based on RTI, Developing Gifted Potential in Spanish-Speaking English Language Learners, which is by Margarita Blanco and Brian Harris, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. So in this article, it mainly focused on RTI, of course, which also stands for Response to Intervention. And it's a model, so Response to Intervention model. And it looked at how RTI is used to identify and support students who are struggling, but Bianco and Harris just kind of flipped that idea, turned it around kind of in their way, and they wanted to use RTI in a way to find and nurture the strengths of their students and focused on deficits that they could possibly have, of course, to help them build that confidence for them to be successful in the classroom, because that is the ultimate goal, for our students to be successful in the classroom and really build that positive learning environment for them. So this model that they turned around, they ended up calling it the strength-based RTI, which is kind of perfect because that's what they did. They kind of strengthened up the RTI. I can't talk. And forgive my voice if I sound a little sick, because I'm sick. Children. So their model was specifically designed for gifted English language learners and those who are overlooked in gifted programs, probably because they don't speak much English. But in this article, they argued that they don't have to speak much English to be considered gifted or academically talented. I remember in my past field placement, my second semester to be exact, at Burnett Elementary, when I started there, I noticed one student, in that class, it was a very diverse classroom. There were maybe like 2 or 3 multilingual learners who were mainly Spanish speakers. So when I got there, and they heard me speak Spanish, their faces just lit up because they finally had somebody to go to translate, to talk to, because they couldn't rely on their teacher because their teachers were American. They didn't speak another language besides English. So I was, someone who could bring comfort to them. And I remember one student, absolutely, like, gifted. Work, if it was in English, of course, that threw him off. But when it came to math, perfect. Answered everything correctly. Social studies, always participated regardless of the language barrier. My MT did a lot of visuals, and that's how he was able to grasp this information very well. Answered automatically. And he wasn't in the gifted classroom. He wasn't being pulled out with the gifted, and I assume it's because of, obviously, the language, and the gifted teacher was not Hispanic or didn't know another language, mainly just English, so I didn't want to consider them consider them gifted, forgive me. So when they argued that point, it just made me think of that experience. And towards the end, I do want to say that they did get him tested for gifted. I don't remember exactly if he got into gifted. I think my time ended there prior to figuring that out, but I do hope he made it, because I absolutely think he would blossom in a gifted environment. But back to the article. So in this article, it shows students that can create a multi-tier system of support that builds on the student's language, culture, and interests. So in Tier 1, it's mostly culture responsive curriculum that lets ELs use both their first and second language to show what they know. So They don't just have to rely on English. They can just obviously talk in their native language to help them do their work. In tier 2, it was mainly focused on the differentiation portion, so it really brings in the students' passion and their family's input, their culture, and that's what brings in the cultural relevancy to this tiered process. And in tier 3, they looked at the opportunity to just advance them in the gifted program or in a mentorship program, possibly providing them a mentor in the school, because I mean, I've seen several students have mentors. How am I trying to say this? Have mentors in the school. Mainly it's for SEL, but thinking about it in an academic standpoint, a mentor could also like serve as a tutor and serve as a, I don't want to say therapist, but like an open ear, I guess, if you understand what I'm saying. To hear the struggles of what they're struggling in school. So I thought that was a great idea. But anyways, those are the 3 tiers. The first one was cultural response to the curriculum. The second one was enrichment and differentiation. And in tier 3 was just the opportunity to continue advancing. Anyways, but the heart of their message was just to serve ELs. So this process was mainly geared towards them, and it's shifted from like deficit thinking to just dynamic thinking, meaning we're no longer gonna look at them like, oh, they can't do it because of the language, or they can't do it because they just don't understand, they can't read, they can't write. No, you're now thinking like, okay, like these language barriers could be used as a resource, and it could help them blossom, which I absolutely love. So their main thing was, instead of asking what do students lack, is like what strengths or talents haven't been discovered yet, which I think is amazing. Just because, especially in my classroom right now, a lot of my students just, it looks like they have a lack of motivation, and that's what honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I do feel like that sometimes, where it's like, oh, I taught it this way, I've modeled, I used the visuals, but why isn't it clicking? But then again, I have to think in their perspective, like, this is a new grade for them. Some of them have been in the country for 2 to 3 years. This is a whole new country, then a whole new environment. Their family's probably still learning their ways of life here. So it's just getting them to feel that confidence in the classroom and continue trying, and just that differentiation of making everything connect for them is just very, very beautiful. And that's what this article mainly made me think about. Now, the second article, let's look at this one. So this one mainly looked at the ability of high learners. So this one was, they defined differentiation as a way of responding to the differences in your classroom. So not only the differences in ability, so like some kids can't do math, some can't read, can't write, like, okay, cool, those are their abilities. Why don't we look at their interest, look at their learning style, look at their readiness for what they're going to learn. And so the goal was to move from a system where one fits all, like one size fits all. That's mainly what a lot of education was prior, and now it's shifting, which is amazing. And to create an experience that is challenging to every student, is tailored to them and their readiness, their interest, their learning style, their abilities, everything encompassing that. So they practice several models, but the main one they use is the maker model, which focuses on 4 key ideas or areas. Number 1 is content. So obviously that is what students learn. So for high ability learners, that just means like looking at their ideas on complex topics and how they connect different concepts, their processes. So this is how the students learn. So just provided more open-ended inquiry, like allowing students to explain themselves rather than doing like a multiple choice, like give an open-ended question, let them show their work, let them have freedom to have multiple solutions, let them see how their thinking is breaking down. Their product, how students show their learning. So this is their final project, hurt me. We get a little parched. Let me take some water. Okay. So this is like their projects. So they can use and show what they've learned. This is what they're going to put out. So, like, this is what I know. And actually let it be creative. Let them be themselves in their project rather than giving them a worksheet where it's like, oh, I have to solve this exactly like this, or I only have this possible answer, like, and I have to use a specific strategy. Let them guide their own thinking, their environment, where and whom, like, how are they learning. Provide a flexible classroom where the students aren't in a traditional, like, they're not in the same group all the time, like, providing them like opportunities to collaborate with different partners and just make it more engaging and make it more of a student-centered vibe or area. So this approach is mainly just to ensure that gifted students aren't just doing busy work, because sometimes they think, oh, they're gifted, they'll do this so quick, they're done. No, like, their work has to be more deeper and meaningful to them, and they have to grow. They can't just be gifted and be expected, master this, da-da-da, like, at the end of the school year, we can just start talking about next year's stuff so you can remain gifted. No, they have to grow, they have to master, like, they have a different track, and their track can look different from the students who are not in gifted, and that is okay, but they have to be enriched. This also highlights formative assessments, in my opinion. Formative assessments, of course, are used as a way to gauge students' thinking and see where they are, and also gauge your teaching. If a teacher doesn't use formative assessments to guide their instruction, forgive me for saying this, but, like, what are you doing? You as a teacher, you're not an expert. You have to learn. Every day is a learning curve. And these formative assessments can be a learning curve. I'm going to be completely honest. Like, in math, I taught math. Today, my math lesson was division. They had to differentiate between which board problem was division and multiplication. And after teaching it, I thought the lesson went very well. My MT was in there. She thought it went well, but obviously she had different tips for me, which I'm very grateful for she had. And after I got to see my students do the work, and some of them just didn't get it, and it was okay, like, now I know, like, be more explicit with the anchor chart. Literally break it down with the systems on the anchor chart and say, what, am I combining my groups here, or am I taking apart a number and putting it into groups? They needed that explicitness, and now that formative assessment that I conducted showed me that. And now I know, okay, break it down for them. I still have time before this test. I need to catch it before it gets worse. So that is my goal now. Now, let's get back to the articles. Now, the third article that I read was, it had, like, looked at the WIDA, and it had an approach based on differentiation for English learners. So the WIDA Focus Bullets and Differentiation Part 1. This was mainly a guide to supporting English language learners in a mainstream classroom. So obviously English language learners are capable of meeting the academic standards that all the other students have. They just need different support. That's it. They just need scaffolding. And if you can provide that for them, they could blossom. And again, that comes down to your classroom environment. So scaffolding their language, scaffolding their learning, like, you have to make their education more accessible. And this article really cemented that idea to me, especially now in my classroom. The constant use of sentence stems and visuals is something new to me, but it's a gift that I'm extremely grateful to have learned, because it's taught me a lot about just breaking down learning and making it more accessible for them, and seeing my students be successful has been truly rewarding. So the WIN model uses a can-do philosophy. So obviously this doesn't focus on the students' limitations. It focuses on their strengths, of course, and, like, it expects the teachers to build their lessons around the language expectations and their supports that they need, and scaffold the lessons in a way that they can understand. And it just emphasizes a lot of collaboration, obviously with the teacher and the students, of course, but obviously with ESOL teachers around the room, even administration. Get the support you need. If you notice students aren't learning from you, maybe an ESOL intervention would be more helpful. Collaborate with that ESOL teacher. Don't expect that ESOL teacher to know off the bat what you're planning. Let them know your plan for the week. Let them see, this is a plan. This is what I would like them to know. And your ESOL teacher could possibly offer those strategies that you might not know to offer. And they could be a wealth of knowledge for you. And finally, I think it's getting longer. Forgive me all. My last article that I read was the planning differentiated instruction for gifted and high ability learners. So this one mainly looked at intentional planning. That's kind of what I've been hitting on the whole time here, intentional planning. Because scaffolding in general is intentional planning. You are planning for your students in your classroom, which is extremely important. So teachers, of course, have to create a lesson that's not only differentiated for them, but also complex, has depth, and is creative. Your students have to be engaged. If they're not engaged, unfortunately now in this time, it's not like before where it's like, take out a textbook, flip to page 10, do this. No, students aren't like that anymore. They have to be engaged. If they're not engaged, if they're not having fun, if they're bored, they're not going to do it. So you have to be creative. That's hard for me sometimes, I'm not going to lie, but we have to. And complex and depth, you have to provide a academically challenging environment to challenge your brains, get them to grow. So this again looked at the 4 dimensions of differentiation: content, process, product, and a learning environment. But this is looking more at the intentional planning ahead to help stretch gifted students out. And really any student, really, not just gifted. Your EL, English language learners, let them grow. Take pre-assessments to see where students are on their understanding. Build on that understanding. Examples could be gifted learners for content. They might want to explore abstract theories or their global issues and process. They can conduct their independent research, do a collaborative inquiry. The product for the gifted learners could be an authentic project or a real-world project where they have to present to the community. An environment could be changing their spaces, makes them more flexible, allowing for more collaboration. And this will help guide their growth, which I think is very beautiful. And this chapter really just puts together that academically challenging environment with care and dedication and love for your students, because differentiating for them is making their education more accessible, making your life easier because your students now are understanding what they're learning and helping them grow, which is the ultimate goal. So overall, with all these articles, my main takeaway is differentiation is about equity through opportunity. That's mainly what it is. Creating an equitable environment for your students. And as teachers, that is beyond important. That is something that I strive to learn this year, especially with my MT having 10 years of knowledge on her, and the past couple years being mainly sheltered classroom and English language learners. It's my goal to learn, and yeah, but let me stop rambling, because I'm sure you guys have some lesson planning to do, so I'll let you guys get to it. But yeah, that was the podcast for today. I hope you all enjoyed, and tune in next time. Thank you.